How can we teach our children what it means to work hard? Well, you do it through training. The definition of greatness is to inspire the people next to you. Okay, if you want to accomplish something, I'm not just going to sit here and say, yes, you can do whatever you want. Yes, you can, but you have to also put in the work to get there, right? When you grow up as a kid thinking that the world is your oyster, and all things are possible if you put in the work to do it, you grow up having that fundamental belief.
Yeah.
I had a summer where I played basketball when I was like 10 or 11 years old, and I scored not a free throw, not a lucky shot, not a breakaway layup, 0 points. And I remember crying about it and being upset about it. And my father just gave me a hug and said, listen, whether you score 0 or score 60, I'm going to love you no matter what.
Wow.
Now that is the most important thing that you can say to a child. Because from there, I was like, okay, that gives me all the confidence in the world to fail. I have the security there. But to hell with that, I'm scoring 60. The day could be today that your career is over.
At any time when you were playing, you mean, yeah.
Now what do? You have these ideas about doing something with your life after basketball, but what if today is the day that's it? Now what do you do? So I had all this time sitting there with my Achilles injury and contemplating and thinking, and I said, I better get to work. There's a quote from one of my English teachers at Lower Merion named Mr. Fisk. He had a great quote that said, rest at the end, not in the middle. And that's something I always live by. I'm not going to rest, I'm going to keep on pushing now. There are a lot of answers that I don't have, even questions that I don't have. But I'm just going to keep going. I'm just going to keep going, and I'll figure these things out as we go, right? And you just continue to build that way. Because you have different ways to get better. There's certain things that you can figure out that you can take advantage of, right? Certain weaknesses that were exposed that you need to shore up, right? So it was exciting. I mean, it sucks to lose,
Right.
but at the same time, there are answers there if you just look at them. After a performance, she's immediately on her laptop rewatching the performance.
No way.
Yes, seeing how to do things better. What could we have done differently, right? I mean, it's an obsessiveness that comes along with it. You want things to be as perfect as they can be, understanding that nothing is ever perfect. But the challenge is try to get them as perfect as they can be. And what can you do? It's in your control. So control what you can. How can we teach our children what it means to work hard? Well, you do it through training, right? So when I get up in the morning, my daughter goes with me.
4 a.m.?
4 a.m. My 15-year-old goes with me. She goes with me before school, and it becomes a daddy-daughter thing. The definition of greatness is to inspire the people next to you. I think that's what greatness is or should be. It's not something that lives and dies with one person. It's how can you inspire a person to then in turn inspire another person that then inspires another person. And that's how you create something that I think lasts forever. Yeah. And I think that's our challenge as people, is to figure out how our story can impact others and motivate them in a way to create their own greatness. At 13 years old, I played the longer game because my game wasn't about being better than you at 13. It was to be better than you when the chips are really on the line. So when we played at 13, I would size you up and see what your strengths and weaknesses are. How do you approach the game? Are you silly about it? Are you goofy about it? Are you good at it just because you're bigger and stronger than everybody else? Right? Or is there actually thought and skill that you put into it? Right? And when I'd play to my weaknesses. I wouldn't play to my strengths. I played to my weaknesses. Because when you're playing summer basketball, there's so many games. So there's not a lot of skill work being done. So when are you going to get better? Right? When you're playing in competition situations, you're only playing to your strengths. Why? Because you want to win. Right? So what I would do, I was work on the things during those games that I was weak at. Left hand, pull-up jump shot, post game. Right? So I have a strategy. And so then fast forward to when I'm 17, and my game is completely well-rounded, and that player at 13 that I saw at 13 is still doing the same shit at 17, now you got a problem. Like I see a lot of players take vacations with other players that are close friends. And we'll just take vacations just to take vacations, or just hang out just to hang out. Like I never did that. But it was a choice.
Not though? Why didn't you do that?
Well, because when I retire, I didn't want to have to say, I wish I would have done more. I don't want that. I don't want that. you got to look at the reality of the situation. You know, like for me, it's not, you kind of got to get over yourself. Like, it's not about you, man. Like, okay, you feel embarrassed. You're not that important. Like, get over yourself.
That's where you go.
Get over yourself, right? Like, you're worried about how people may perceive you, and like you're walking around and it's embarrassing because you shot 5 air balls. Get over yourself, right? And then after that, it's okay, well, why did those air balls happen? Got it. High school, year before, we played 35 games, max, right? Week in between, spaced out, plenty of time to rest. In the NBA, it's back to back to back to back to back to back to back. I didn't have the legs. So you look at the shot, every shot was online. Every shot was online, but every shot was short. Right? I got to get stronger. I got to train differently. The weight training program that I'm doing, I got to tailor it for an 82-game season so that when the playoffs come around, my legs are stronger and that ball gets there. So I look at it with rationale and say, okay, well, the reason why I shot air balls is because my legs aren't there. I go, well, next year they'll be there. Yeah.
What was really your work ethic like, and for how long did you stay disciplined?
Well, I mean, every day. I mean, since, for 20 years. I mean, it was an everyday process and trying to figure out strengths and weaknesses. For example, jumping ability. Now, my vertical was a 40, it wasn't a 46 or a 45. My hands are big, but they're not massive, right? So you got to figure out ways to strengthen them so your hands are strong enough to be able to palm a ball and do the things that you need to do. Quickness, I was quick, but not insanely quick. I was fast, but not ridiculously fast, right? So I had to rely on skill a lot more. I had to rely on angles a lot more. I had to study the game a lot more. And but I enjoyed it though. So like from the time I can remember when I started watching the game, I studied the game, and it just never changed.
What is the conversational life like with your wife and kids to say, listen, this is what I'm doing? How did that conversation go?
Well, with the kids, it's different. So like the communication with our children is that, Pops is working hard. This is the level of attention to detail you need to have in everything you do. So it's setting the example. Same thing with my wife. My wife's a stay-at-home wife. It's the hardest job, man. Right? So she works really hard at that. I mean, it's, and so her attention to detail with that as well are examples for our children. And then for my wife, it's, she's as competitive as I am. So she's like, listen, man, if you're going to be out here training 8 hours a day, if you're going to spend 9 months out of the year away from your family, you better fucking win the championship. But it's a balancing act, and that's the thing that's important, is understanding that we have to have so much energy. Because for like Natalia and Gianna when they were babies, especially Natalia because she was doing prime years, and I go to practice and I'd train and I'd play the game and I'd come home and I'd be sore and I'd be tired. And she wants to go swimming, she wants me to take her to the park, she wants to just jump on my back or whatever the case may be. You can't say, I'm too tired, I'm going to lay down. That's not fair. She don't know what the hell's going on, right? And if this was a game, you'd suck it up and play. I played games with the flu. I played games with 102-degree fever, man.
Powerful.
You can't do that.
That is so powerful,
right?
Man.
You got to be on, man.
Friend of mine, Nima, he is here just to listen to you. He played ball. And he told me, he says, Patrick, I don't think you understand. He says, when I tore my Achilles in high school, he says, 4 friends of mine dragged me to my hospital. I was crying from there straight to the hospital. He says, I have no clue how the hell this guy did it. He went and hit the free throws, and then you walked off the stage.
Yeah.
And then you got the surgery done.
Yeah.
How the hell do you tolerate that kind of pain?
I use this. I tell this example, and I think this is the best way to explain it. You have a hamstring injury. You pull your hamstring really, really badly. You can barely walk, right? Let alone play anything, soccer, basketball, volleyball, whatever it is. Can't do anything. Doctor tells you go home, sit up on the couch, rest your hammy, right? Stay off of it. Don't get up. No sudden movements. You're at home. All of a sudden, a fire breaks out in the home. Right? Your kids are upstairs. Wife is wherever she may be. Shit's going down. Right? I'm willing to bet that you're going to forget about your hamstring. You're going to sprint upstairs. You're going to grab your kids. You're going to make sure your wife's good. You're getting out of that house, right? Hamstring be damned. You're not going to feel your hamstring, right? And the reason is because the lives of your family are more important than the injury of your hamstring. And so when the game is more important than the injury itself, you don't feel that damn injury. Not at that time. Yeah, you got to lead by example. As parents, you got to lead by example. If you want your kids to do whatever it is they want to accomplish in life, you have to show them. You can't. You got to show them. And that's what I tried to do. But during that year, everybody kept coming up to me and saying, okay, you're going to have stages of grief when you retire. You're going to go into a state of depression when you retire. And those are all normal and all this other stuff. And I'm like, dude, I'm fine. Yes, of course you would say that. I said that too. I'm like, dude, fuck, man. And so after a while, I just started listening, like, oh, yeah. And, you know, and then my competitiveness inside was like, no, I'm going to do something in the next 20 years that is better than these last 20. What I have to do now is make sure that the people that we bring in, these obsessives that we bring in, are challenging themselves to do the best job that they think they can do. That's what I'm there for, is for them to constantly look in the mirror and self-assess and challenge themselves. If we have a project and you're saying, okay, I can do that, that's not the project we want. The projects that say, I don't know if I can animate that. I don't know how to write that story. I don't know how to do that. Those are the things we want, because through that curiosity, you'll reach a level that you didn't think was possible.
So recruiting, obviously in the league, you were known as a great recruiter. So what is your recruiting approach? So if you're sitting down with me, I'm somebody you really want me on the team. What's your approach to recruit me?
You want first place, come play with me. You want second place, go somewhere else.